In this video, we're going to take a look at the Pelikan M1000. So let's jump straight to the end with my thoughts on this pen. I really like writing with this pen. Its larger nib helps it be very soft to write with. It's one of my favorite pens to write with. The writing experience is absolutely spectacular. And I know a lot of people will talk about how the M800 may be a bit better than it, but I think this is the best writing experience that Pelikan puts out. And it did take a little bit of adjustment to that soft nib, and then I found that's what I like. Now, with the fine nib that's on this pen, I had no baby's bottom issue. I did on the broad nib that I also have for this pen. So I had planned for that in being able to fix that problem, and the broad runs fantastic. I ran the fine here because I think more people would be interested in it. It's absolutely smooth. This pen has no feedback whatsoever, and while I tend to prefer just a little bit, being able to vary some of the writing experience for me is one of the joys of a fountain pen. This is a case where I absolutely love the super smooth writing experience here combined with the soft nib. Now that we know how I feel about the Pelikan M1000, let's see how I got to that opinion, starting with the unboxing. The Pelikan M1000 comes in a box like this, which holds a box like this, which holds a pen sleeve like this. I kind of appreciate the efficiency of their packaging with some of their higher pens, that by reusing the packaging the way they do, it really does help keep some of the cost down for these very expensive pen, because it is the pen that you want after all. With the pen out of the box, we need to get to the nib. And as long as it doesn't take 20 turns to uncap a pen, I'm generally okay. But how many turns does it take to uncap this pen? The Pelikan M1000 takes about 3/4 of a turn to uncap. Such a smooth uncapping, and at only one turn, I want to say, barely even notice it. It's not something that slows you down at all, and I've never had an issue with my M1000 drying out, and I have left it intentionally, and that was some work, for a week to see if it would dry out in a week, and it didn't. This gets us to the nib. This pen has their gold fine nib on it. Pelikan probably has some of the most beautiful nibs that you can get. The scroll work on them really does look great. And sometimes you get ink up into all of those little crevices, and believe it or not, the nib looks even better. Now, let's ink this pen up. The Pelikan M1000 is a piston filler that holds approximately 1.7 milliliters of ink. The ink for today is Pelikan 4001 Blue Black. Despite what people think, this pen holds the same amount of ink as the M800. So you're not getting more ink capacity, just a slightly larger pen. As a habit, I don't normally post my pens, but some people prefer to post their pens, and some pens need to be posted in order to be used comfortably. This is their larger pen, and there's no real need to have to post it. I like how long it comes back, but if you did want to post it, it posts deep enough and secure enough to not be any problem. The cap bands let you have some security over cracking the cap, unless you really wrench it down on there, which would be ridiculous. I tend to use it unposted. If you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Now, the important part, the writing sample. As I said, this is one of my favorite pens to write with, and it is for a couple of reasons. One is that super smooth and soft feeling that this pen gives. This pen also for me is sentimental. My brother gave me this pen, and it was my first, quote, fancy pen or expensive pen to really get. I was diving in the deep end when I got this one, and every time I use it, it gets to be connected to the fact that my brother gave it to me. So the tremendously amazing writing experience gets connected to family, which I think a lot of people can agree that when you have a pen connected to some of your own memories for things, it becomes a little bit more special. That's one of the reasons that this particular pen is one of my favorite pens of all time. It does help that it is an amazing pen to write with. Absolutely smooth. Don't push it on the nib. It's not a flex nib, and I know a bunch of reviewers have harped on that, but I always feel it's important to put out there, because if you do try to flex it, you will flex it at least once, and the pen or the nib is rather expensive to replace, almost to the point of a new pen. Not quite, but and really not quite a bit, by less than half. So I've been willing to get replacement nibs, which is another advantage of this pen. When you know you have a pen you love and can simply change the nib, there's always used nibs on the aftermarket. Absolutely love using it, and I have a couple spare nibs just because of that. Now for something a bit more standard in comparing writing size. I use Mnemosyne Blue to do this, and here's how it compares to a Jowo Extra Fine on the left, a medium in the middle, and a 1.1 stub on the right. As is common with these, it's noticeable that the fine is broader than a normal Western fine would be. It does write at about a medium, and that for me does make me think that I would be interested in trying one of their fines. I actually think it would be interesting to order a fine but have it ground to a Japanese fine, because that would be pretty cool. But how does it compare in writing size to other nibs I've used? Looking at the writing of a Pelikan M1000 with a fine nib, here it is next to a Lamy 2000 with a medium nib, a fountain pen Revolution Japer with their broad nib, a Duke 209 that's writing very upright with a Fude nib, a Mnemosyne Fission with a broad nib, and a Noodler's Conrad with a fountain pen Revolution broad nib. So it isn't a review without some size comparison. Here it is capped, here it is uncapped, and here it is posted. This is a larger pen, and it's only slightly girthier than the M800 and only slightly longer. I find this pen to really be a great size for me. Now, I'm going to call this a perfect size for me, even though I do have a pen that is thicker that I really enjoy using a lot as well. But this pen is perfect. At this point, we need to clean out the pen just because it's dirty. Be sure to check out the next pen review when we take a look at the Waterman Graduate. If you want to be able to support not just my channel, but any reviewer, then when you make a purchase, be sure to tell that retailer where you heard about it. Thanks for watching.